My name is Alara Vance, though the sound of my own name felt like a betrayal of the identity I was given, girl. The mountain was not just where we lived. It was a character in our story, a silent, granite jailer. It was a peak in the northern Rockies, remote, brutal, and stunningly beautiful. The isolation was perfect. The nearest actual town was 200 miles away, connected only by a series of treacherous logging roads. Our cabin was made of thick, rough-hewn logs, built entirely by my father's unforgiving hands, and it felt as permanent and cold as the rock face it was built against. Silas Vance, my father, believed in two things: absolute self-reliance and the absolute hierarchy of the home. He was a man carved from the very granite of the mountain, unyielding and sharp. His hands, capable of felling 100-year-old pine, were also masters of silence, the kind of silence that crushed voices and spirits. In his world, things were split neatly: men, muscle, labor, and property, which meant the land, the tools, and his women. My mother, Vivian, was a woman worn down to transparency. Years under Silas's dominion had bleached the color from her eyes. She saw everything, yet she existed in a constant, low state of quiet fear. Her only defense was withdrawal, a soft, translucent ghost. Then there was Caspian. For years my senior, he was Silas's masterpiece, the golden heir. He had a terrifying duality: handsome, magnetic, and utterly cruel. He could track elk like a predator and charm the few outsiders we saw. But behind the charisma was a coiled, calculating cruelty that knew exactly where to strike. I was the silent shadow, learning early that invisibility was safety. I sought refuge in the high mountain meadow, watching the hawks circle and yearning for that flight. Knowing my own wings were clipped long ago, the shift began the year I turned 12. Caspian's touches became less accidental. He would corner me by the woodpile, a casual lean that blocked my escape, his smile a terrifying mixture of brotherly affection and something hungry, possessive. The terror solidified into a pattern of whispered threats. He always used father as his shield, his final defense. Scream, he'd murmur, his breath hot against my ear, and I'll tell father you were out past the tree line. You know what he does to liars. Double quotes. And so, I learned the hardest lesson. Silence was survival. My spirit retreated, floating somewhere above the rough-hewn beams of the cabin ceiling. I watched the monster who was my brother prove his power. His face a mask of cold satisfaction, and I became the ghost. Vivian saw it all. She would only whisper the same chilling advice: do not anger your father, Ilara. Do not make trouble. You must be silent to survive here. It was a desperate plea for her own continued, miserable existence. The nausea hit me one April morning, a brutal, dizzying wave. I was 15. I had missed my cycle for 2 months. The awful, impossible truth bloomed in my belly like a poisonous, hidden flower. I was pregnant with my brother's child. I spent weeks hiding it beneath shapeless tunics, but the inevitable curve of my belly was undeniable. Vivian found out first. I fainted one hot July afternoon, and when I woke, she was staring at me, her face a mask of raw horror. We collapsed together in the dusty pantry, 2 women trapped, shattered by the same inherited misfortune. The discovery by Silas was an explosion. Drunk and raging over a roof leak, he tore the shawl from my shoulders, and the visible life beneath my dress froze him. "Whose is it?" he thundered. Caspian walked in then, perfectly composed. He took one look at me and acted. He stepped smoothly between us, the devoted son. "I warned you, father," he said calmly. "I saw her with that trapper down near the creek. She's a spoiled, loose thing. She has dishonored the Vance name. My son, Ronan, was born in the cold heart of a late November blizzard. Vivian, trembling but competent, delivered him. When he finally drew his first breath, a tiny, perfect boy with eyes of the deep, possessive blue of Caspian's, I felt a love so fierce it was a physical shield. This little creature was not to blame for anything. He deserved all the protection in the world. Silas pretended he didn't exist, but Caspian proud, watching the infant with an unsettling, proprietary pride. "He'll be strong, father," he'd declare. "He'll be a real man, not one raised by a woman." That was the line I would not allow to be crossed. I would die before I let him turn my son into another predator. My chance came through the death of my jailer. One morning, Silas collapsed a sudden, brutal stroke. At the small, lonely wake, I watched Caspian step into the role of man of the house. When his eyes met mine, he gave a tiny, subtle smile that said, I am now the absolute authority. You are even more mine, double quotes. But he didn't know that at that exact moment, watching the rough mountain soil fall on my father's coffin, I was planning my freedom. My ally was Finn, the old hermit who delivered supplies. I confided in him, and he agreed to take us to the nearest rail line. I took only two things: the blanket that wrapped Ronan at his birth, and a smooth river stone, a symbol of freedom. Ronan was 14 months old, strapped to my chest. I left a simple note for Vivian: I am taking the boy to safety. Do not follow. I did not look back. The journey was a blur of aching muscles and icy streams. When we reached the rail line, Finn gave me enough crumpled cash for a single ticket. When the train finally pulled away, carrying us south, I watched the mountain recede until it was nothing more than a faint shadow. It was the first moment of true, terrifying freedom. Hundreds of miles away, in a sprawling, bustling city, I became Alara Cross. I took a job as a cook in a small diner. The past was simply erased, and as Ronan grew, I began the careful construction of the lithoprotective wall that would ensure his sanity. His father, I told him, was not Caspian Vance, the monster. His father was Caspian Cross, a heroic forest ranger who died bravely in a flash flood while saving a group of hikers. I used an old, faded thrift shop photo to give the lie weight. I told him stories of courage, of love, of the sacrifice of a good man who gave his life for others. It was a noble, tragic tale, a necessary story. Ronan is 18 now. He is preparing for college. He has his father's deep blue eyes, but in his case, they hold only a bright, honest light. He has a right to believe his father was a hero, not a predator. I am no longer girl. I am Alara Cross, Ronan's mother. I am the woman who chose life over despair, and who chose a lie to protect, not to destroy. The beautiful eyes that once reminded me of terror now remind me that a mother's love can transform any cursed inheritance into a profound blessing. The lie is my last, enduring act of love.